Good morning, everybody. It's your girl, Suzette Vearnon. I am your relationship solutionist with a music math approach to dating and relating. And I'm also the host of Enough Back to Podcast. And I want to say to everybody, happy Monday. It's great to be with you this morning. I tell you, it was a very busy weekend. Shout out to my grand twins, Aiden and Preston, who celebrated 2 years. Yes, they did. They celebrated 2 years old. And so I think you might have seen the pictures I posted where my husband and I were wearing Mickey Mouse t-shirts in celebration of my grand twins. Uh, they had a very rough start, and every time I see their smiling faces, I feel so blessed because the odds were not in their favor. At least if you were to ask the doctors, the odds were not in their favor. Good morning, Jenny. But God has the last word. And if he says yes, hi, Wilhelmina. If God says yes, then there is no that can stand. And so even though the doctors said, oh, this might not go well, so prepare yourself, God said yes. And to see them at 2 years old, bouncing and not behaving with such personality and such life, I was just absolutely blessed. I also had the opportunity to spend some time with my mom on yesterday. And so I had a very busy weekend of fun and a lot of travel. So I'm a little tired this Monday, but I am so very grateful to be greeting you. I'm a little earlier than I usually am. Usually on Mondays, I do my post-episode commentary for my Enough Factor podcast episode that releases every Sunday. So yesterday's episode was if life offers you an out, take it, right? And so usually on Mondays, it's my time to just kind of give you some little nuggets, the little ahas, the little insights, the little things, the little commentary that I like to make on the episode. So thank you for those of you who are joining me this morning, and for those of you who will listen to the replay later. Going forward, this will broadcast usually around 11:30-ish, 12-ish, so you can kind of catch it on your lunch break live. But I am so grateful for those of you who have gathered and everything. I've got a very busy day planned today, but I want it to be true in giving my commentary because it's just as much for me as it is for you. I love to speak what's in my heart, what's on my mind, what insights arise out of me as a result of listening back. Hi, Alice. Thank you for listening. And those of you who are listening live, please feel free to share it on your page because what I'm going to say is going to really be beneficial and it's going to bless those who listen, those that listen live, and also those who listen later. So I want to also give a shout out to my Enough Factor Connect group, my Enough Warriors. I love you all. I appreciate you. I thank you for tuning in, whatever page I'm on. You all are so there. I truly appreciate you. I'm learning just as much from you as you are learning from me because we all are on this I am enough journey. We all are. We all are in the process of defining for ourselves what makes us enough. And so the motivation behind the podcast and behind the group is that we are redefining what makes us enough in life and in love, on our own terms. And so if you are looking for a growing group of phenomenal women and a few cool men, right now my husband is holding it down. Uh, Actually, he was my first group member. And so now I have, oh gosh, the group is growing. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but everybody who's coming to the group is a phenomenal woman, is a woman who is on enough journey, it's true, but don't mind sharing insights with the other members, don't mind sharing vulnerability with the other members who are really, truly, good morning, Lynette, good morning, Pastor Jackie, who are really doing their work. Because how many of you know that you have to take your enoughness in your own hands? And your enoughness has to be important enough to you for you to get real with yourself and get real with others who you trust. And I realize that many of the members of the group are there because they trust me and the people that invited them. And my hope, my wish, my dream for this group is that it will be a safe place where the members can build a trust with one another and find this to be a wonderful place, because we high achieving women, we need a resting place too. You know, we need a place where we can take off our superwoman cape. We can take off our matte faces, you know, and really get real and know that people will still love us and respect us, even in our humanity. Because many of us are givers, we're movers, we're shakers for other people. But sometimes we can be the most lonely when we're going through our own go through. And I felt like we needed a place among mature women where we can be seen and where we can be heard and where we can get the support that we need. So if that resonates with you, please feel free to join the group. We'll be happy to welcome you there. We always give a warm welcome. And it is one where we have fun, but it's also one where we're very intentional about making sure that we are continuing to work on our enoughness and ask ourselves the hard questions. So now, to my post-episode commentary, there was a quote that really resonated with me, and I have it in the description box, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to tell you 3 things that I took from it. The quote was, "How many of us remained in the most awful situations because we feared losing something?" I know I can raise my hand. Hey, Penny, good to see family tuning in. I'll be the first to out myself and say there have been times I have remained in awful situations, in toxic situations, in situations where I felt neglected, in situations where I felt that I did not matter because I was afraid of losing something. So what I want to mention is just 3 takeaways. I'm going to say these 3 takeaways and then I'll be done. One was, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you fear losing? Now, you may have to ask yourself that multiple times because at first it's going to be very surface answers, right? But you have to keep asking, what do I fear losing, until you get as close as you can to the real truth inside of yourself. And if you keep asking and you keep pondering it, you will get deeper and deeper underneath the layers, underneath the pseudo answers, and get down to the real so that you can tell yourself the truth. Weigh the pros and cons and confront what it is you fear and what is your payoff for staying in that toxic situation. Because the payoff is mitigating your fear. It's not really helping you. So you have to get real about that. And until you get real about that, you assume the position and posture of being the victim. And I'm here to tell you, you are nobody's victim. You are serving your fear, is what you're doing. And you have to call a thing a thing. That's something Iyanla Vanzant says all the time. Call a thing a thing. Because the truth is, you are more powerful than you're giving yourself credit, or more powerful than you want to be in the situation. Second thing, you have to ask yourself, what inside of me is so broken that I've made it okay for me to stay here? What inside of me is so broken, so misguided, so against my own enoughness, my own value, that I've made it okay. I've given my okay on staying in this situation. I need to add something. You're complaining to other people about it, don't count. Because many of us will complain, we'll vent to somebody else, and because we get an instant relief from venting, we tell ourselves we can stay in it a little bit longer. For some of you, venting to your family and friends is the worst thing you're doing, because every time you vent to your friends and complain, it gives you the release. And if you're not careful, because you feel better by having complained or vented, you will talk yourself into staying longer into that toxic situation, that awful situation. You'll tell yourself it's not that bad. You'll tell yourself, well, I'm going to stay in it just a little bit longer so I can accomplish this and so I can do that. You go right back into denial thinking. And some of us have a martyr complex. We think it somehow makes us better or greater because we're suffering through it. But you know what? The truth about martyrs. Martyrs are killed. That's what makes them martyrs. Martyrs of old didn't live to tell the tale. Martyrs of old gave their lives, right? So if you are assuming a martyr role, you got to tell yourself the truth. You're not really being a martyr. You're not really being a martyr. And you got to find out why you're giving yourself permission, why you're giving consent to remaining in a situation that is toxic, it's unhealthy, it's draining, it's so much of an insult to the truth of who you truly are. And you can't blame other people for your decision to stay there. And so many of us are limping through life blaming other people for the choice we made. We made the choice to believe them. We made the choice to believe them even though their actions told us they were lying. We made the choice. And until we take ownership that we made the choice to remain, we will continue to give ourselves an out of being a victim. And I'm throwing flag on the play. You are not a victim. You are just not. I don't care what excuse you give me. I don't care what you tell me. What was then was then. What are you doing with your now? What's the past is the past. You're the one that's bringing it into the present. You're the one that's allowing it in the present. You're the one that's using it to avoid making the decision that you need to make. Okay? Last but certainly not least, what generational pathology are you perpetuating that your children will have to carry on? What legacy of pain? What legacy of abuse? What legacy of neglect? What legacy of lying to yourself? What legacy of thinking you're not enough are you perpetuating in your children by remaining in that situation? Because you know something I learned about kids? They're smarter than we give them credit. We think that because we tell them to do better, we think that because we take them to church, we think that because we teach them about Jesus, we think that because we tell them the truth, tell them what's right, that that's enough. We think that because our children didn't hear us and our spouses arguing and fussing in the other room, that we have somehow saved them. We think that because we got beat while they were in school and that we put makeup on to conceal it, we think that somehow or another they will escape it. But you know what I found out? Pathology shows in a lot of different ways. And it might show up in them being workaholics. It might show up in so many different ways. It may show up in them having friendships where they feel like they're used and abused. It may show up in them feeling like they can't be vulnerable, because if they can't be vulnerable, because now they have equated vulnerability with being weak, when truly vulnerability is the power, strength, and bravery to be who you really are. That's really vulnerability. Because you subject yourself to criticism when you stand in your truth, when you stand for you, when you show up and say, you know what, I didn't like that. When you say that's not okay. When you stand up in the midst of other people sitting down and risk being vulnerable enough to be true and to be honest, that's vulnerability. And so you have to ask yourself, by me remaining here, how am I hurting my children? And for many of us, if we don't leave a toxic situation for ourselves, we will do it for our children. But I have something else to tell you. Your children suffer before you even realize that I'm doing this for my children. Think of all the weeks, the months, the years they have remained in that situation with you before you realize, I don't want this to happen to my children. Think of all the things they have absorbed, all the energy they have absorbed. Because whether they see it or not, the energy is in your home. The energy is in your clothes. The energy is in your person. They pick up on things you don't pick up on. They pick up on subtleties. So the only way you can help your children is to get out. Get out physically, get out emotionally, get out mentally. You got to get out. And don't assume that by getting out, you have saved them and yourself. Immediately seek professional help, not just for you, but for your children, so they can gain inner mastery, so they can get a better context of who they are before they become teenagers and start acting in ways that you say, oh my God, where did this come from? I'm telling you what I know. I'm not telling you what I read in the book. I'm telling you what I know. We think that because our kids make good grades, they're okay. No, they're not. We think that because they have goals that they're reaching, that they're okay. No, they're not. We think because our daughters ain't thinking about boys and they are keeping their heads in the books, they're okay. No, they're not. No, they're not. Some things marinate. Things fester. When they're not rooted out, they fester. When things are not rooted out, they fester. And a lot of times when our kids become teenagers, we see them acting out and wonder where it came from. It was marinating all the time because it never got addressed. So 3 things. To recap, 3 things. One thing, you have to confront what you fear losing. Honestly, getting really real about it. Second thing, you have to ask yourself what inside of you is so broken that you're giving your consent to remaining in an awful situation. What's broken in your theology? Because many of us quote scriptures as reasons why we remain in situations that are not right. What's broken in your theology, in your Godology, that you need to confront? Last but not least, what generational pathology are you perpetuating in your children by you staying? Okay? So I want you to make a decision today as we start out this week to make a decision. Tell yourself the truth. Tell yourself the truth. And own your enoughness. If you want to hear more nuggets, check out my episode, When Life Offers You an Out, Take It. I have the link to it in the description. And for those of you who want to join a group of other women who are choosing to be brave and to be courageous and to hold ourselves accountable and tell ourselves the truth, then I invite you to join my Enough Factor Connect group on Facebook. I love you, and I want you to have the life that you were intended to have. So, in case nobody's told you, and in case nobody tells you, I want you to know you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough. Bye.